Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen are joining us today from around the world. Welcome to this ASEAN regional webinar, Regional Plastic Pollution through the Implementation of Extended Producer Responsibility in ASEAN countries. My name is Jihan Herun Amala, and I will be a master of ceremony for today's event. This webinar will be recorded and conducted online via Zoom and live streaming on CSEAS TV YouTube channel. This event has been organized by the Center for Southeast Asian Studies and the Norwegian Institute for Water Research under the Norwegian ASEAN Regional Integration Program as part of the ASEAN Regional Cooperation Project on local capacity building for reducing plastic pollution in ASEAN region. ASEAN region is currently one of the most affected regions by plastic pollution as the amount of plastic waste continues to increase every year. One of the environmental regulations that can help ASEAN countries address this critical issue is implementing the extended producer responsibilities framework. This webinar aims to contribute to a deeper understanding of EPR implementation in the ASEAN countries and its transformative potential in accelerating the transition to a circular economy in ASEAN. We encourage you all to actively participate and to make this webinar interactive. We have a Q&A session. Feel free to use the chat box on Zoom or CSEAS TV YouTube channel, and you may pose questions to our speakers. We ask you to provide your name and affiliation and make note of which speaker you are addressing the question to. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's dive into the exciting agenda of session 1, Accelerating Extended Producer Responsibility Implementation Across ASEAN Countries. I'm now very pleased to introduce our first moderator, Dr. Arisman, Executive Director of the Center for Southeast Asian Studies Indonesia. Please, Dr. Arisman, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Jihan. For the first session, we would like to discuss how to accelerate the EPR implementation, especially in ASEAN countries. We are very happy today. We have distinguished speakers from 4 ASEAN countries. The first speaker is from Thailand, Dr. Panate from School of Science, Mai Fah Luang University. The second speaker, Mr. Rocky Pairunan, Manager of National Plastic Action Partnership, Indonesia. The third speaker, Mr. Nakmi from National Plastic Action Partnership, Cambodia. And then the last one, Andang, Manager of NPAP, National Plastic Action Partnership, Vietnam. I would like to start to call first speaker, Dr. Panate, for your presentation. Please, Dr. Panate, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, the chairperson, Lisman. And first, I would like to share my screen. And please tell me if my slide is working okay.
Yes.
So, okay, good. So, good afternoon, everyone. Sawadee krap. I'm very happy to be here with all of you and sharing about the progress that we have made in Thailand in this session, accelerating extended producer responsibility implementation. I'm really happy because for this topic, not the least, it was kind of my topic for the graduate, like master and PhD, like 15 years ago. So way back when I did my PhD at Lund University with, Professor Thomas Lindqvist, the one who come up with this concept in a way. So it's nice to be in the environment now that we are accelerating EPR in the region. So happy that after like 15 years, this is like the time to do that. And first, let me just share a little bit about our research center. It's called CEWT or CUTE. So this research center is multidisciplinary. As you can see, we have now 15 members, and we come from 6 different schools, from natural science, social science, and also even like humanities, because we need all of the discipline and their knowledge in order to kind of driving such concept like EPR is one of the very complex concept that we need to entangle many issues. So that's why we have a very multidisciplinary approach to it. Our research center has been awarded last year the Pride and Dignity of Thai Award. So it's kind of a big award from the Prime Minister to our work in many of the SDG area, especially number 12, like sustainable consumption and production. And one of the work that we present in order to achieve this award was the work that we have been done on plastic pollution, and kind of almost at the end of the 2022, we got a project Mephalung University. So the pollution control department commissioned us to draft a new law based on life cycle approach in order to address the plastic waste. So after working for 6 months with 3 expert meetings and 4 public hearings during April and June, so those are like the intensive months that we have a lot of engagement with stakeholders, we finally submit the draft act on sustainable management of packaging to PCD. And at the heart of this bill is EPR. So today I'm going to present about the detail of this draft, how EPR program will be implemented if this law will be passed in the next few years, and how the program has been designed. So this would be like the purpose of today's presentation. But before we go to that, let's kind of share some of, I hope it may be like common reality about like the fact and figures of Thailand. So I mean, in Thailand, we have around 25 million tons of municipal solid waste generated every year. We still have big problem because only like 68% were collected by local government. I say like only 68%. I know that some countries have lower, but of course we want to be achieve higher rate of waste collection. And out of that, about 10% was plastic. And actually it increasing. So overall, municipal solid waste has kind of maintaining or actually decreasing a little bit. But plastic is always keep increasing, especially after COVID-19. I think we use a lot more plastic. But when it comes to recycling rate, it's quite low in general, like 18%. But when we talk about packaging in general, I mean, something like aluminum can achieve very high recycling rate. But other thing like flexible plastic, we low rate. So this is based on the Packaging Institute, so called STIP-MSE, under the Federation of Thai Industry. So this is kind of the general overview of the situation in Thailand when we drafting the law, and we have big informal sector that actually supply waste to the recycling facility. So 500,000 tons that have been recycled, we have to give credit to these people. But there are a lot of limitations and problems that I will not go into detail because I think many of you already kind of familiar with these problems. So I just want to highlight that even though we recycle about like 500,000 every year, most of the problem that we see in the ocean, this is based on my study with WWF and the consultant called Metabolics. We found that most of the leakage came from the uncollected waste, so the mismanagement. So this is confirming Professor Jambak's seminal paper back in 2015. But we use completely different approach. We use like top down, we use like bottom up. 7,000 local government use their data and kind of build up this scenario. But we actually reflect the same reality. There is a big mismanagement, and that is the main contributor to the leakage to the marine at about the same scale. So we estimate about 143 kilotons that going to the ocean. That kind of right in the middle of her estimation, to my surprise, when I did this modeling. So this kind of confirming the problem. So we have a leaking system. So in the future, this is what we want to achieve by drafting this law from the life cycle perspective. So we're not only dealing with waste, but we also want to have better design, better business model that deliver product to consumer using packaging that is more sustainable. So how we are going to do with it? Let's start with the very beginning. So first of all, in this law, when we say sustainable management, the definition cover from design, production, use, reuse, collection, separation, recycling, even like composting is part of that. A little bit controversial, actually. Energy recovery, safe treatment, and proper disposal of packaging. So it include the whole chain. We cannot just focus on waste management. And then when it comes to packaging, we include all like primary, secondary, tertiary, but also single-use item that come with packaging. So something like straw or like a utensil, if it attached with the packaging, it will be covered by this law. And the other important item on definition, I don't know whether other country would have the same problem. I mean, I study EPR, but when I did my study, we always have this equation, producer equal manufacturer and importers. That didn't work in Thailand because the word for producer and manufacturer, we have only one word, pupulit in Thai. So it always causes confusion. So instead of using the term producer, we use a little bit longer term like responsible enterprise to kind of denote the term, the general term of producer. And then we have manufacturer and commissioner of the production. So basically the brand owner as the first clause, then the importer at the second. And the last one is a manufacturer or the importer of the packaging. So we put the primary responsibility on the brand owner of the product that using packaging, not the producer of packaging. So this is the definition that we have. The overall law 50 article can be summarized in this kind of very complex diagram. So I will explain from the inside first. So inside that is the EPR program, the red circle in the middle. So basically the producer would have to pay the EPR fee into a pro. So producer responsibility organization will be the main mechanism that deliver the implementation. And the pro will kind of contract local government, authorized treatment facility, and some of the collector to achieve the target. So this would be like the main mechanism, and it can be like take back and a lot of circular rule within this red area. And then in the green area, that will be the technical board. And this domain will be managed by pollution control department. So they would have reviewed many of the policy instruments. So in this law, we don't only have EPR, but we have other things. For example, PCD might introduce deposit refund as part of EPR eventually, or they might put the ban or restriction on certain packaging. So that's not EPR directly, but they use other policy instrument. And controlling that, we have the blue layer, which is the multi-minister body. So we have MONRE that PCD belong to, and we also have other ministry like industry, commerce, public health. They have to agree on the policy target, on the and approving any policy instrument that will be implemented. So these are like the three layers that we construct in this law. If we going to have the general CE law class, maybe the outer layer can be removed. The green and the red is for the management of plastic. And when it comes to the producer responsibility, article number 28 would be like the main one. I mean, 27 is registered, but 28 is the other responsibility that the responsible enterprises have to follow. The first two items, they have to do it themselves because it's about the follow the design guideline to reduce the use of packaging and then comply with labeling standard. No one can do it for them. But then for the next three items, this is the one that we expect the PRO to take the role. But according to the existing draft, we still allow IPR. So we allow certain producer that can do their own work to opt out of the system. This is still under discussion, but right now we still have like option B to do IPR. But the main default mode would be joining a PRO. So PRO or Pro would collect on behalf of the producer and promote recycling. We set the condition that a Pro need to be non-profit and legal entity in Thailand. And it have to be endorsed by one of the two collective body in the industry. So either the Federation of Thai Industry or the other one is the Thai Chamber of Commerce. So either one of the two have to endorse this PRO in order for PCD to approve its function. And the role of the PRO are quite similar to the one who decide to do IPR, but there are additional items that I put in red here. So the PRO have to set transparent and fair compliant fee. So it needs to be transparent and they cannot do it as a black box. So they have to make it public. Then the second one, the PRO have to support local government in the collection and separation of packaging waste. So we put more responsibility on local government also on waste segregation. PRO have to help them at least in all 77 provinces. So this would be requirement. If you do IPR, you don't have to cover all provinces. You just reaching the target. But for the Pro, they have to also build the system nationwide. So 77 provinces. And then promote quality of life, safety, and job security for small collector of packaging waste. In other words, in the informal sector. Number 8 and number 9, because they are like central body, so provide consultancy and other things for PCD. And these are the other instruments that we have in the law that I mentioned. So there is a ban and restriction. There is also the cost on consumer right to reuse, like in France, eco-labeling, green public procurement, mandatory buyback and deposit refund system that can be introduced later within the EPR system, drop-off point, and sorting infrastructure by local government, and even the damage fee. For example, if eventually or with even or the EPR implementation, waste is still finding their way to the ocean, maybe we can charge the damage fee back to the consumer, the producer, so that the other one. So when this going to happen? So right now, in 2023, as I mentioned, we sent the first draft. PCD now kind of in that process of lawmaking. So they already make one public hearing in February. And now they get the feedback. They actually revise the draft and going to have focus group with many of the stakeholders. I think the industry, the government, and the other party in the coming month. And I think in September we should see the release of the new draft that's going to submit it to the cabinet and then to the parliament. And if everything goes smoothly, I inform that 2027 this law should come into force. And then within the law, to make it a little bit more flexible, we have 5-year cycle to have the national plan within this law. So the first cycle is going to go for the fast-moving consumer good, and then the second cycle for those packaging that right now find their way into like a household hazardous waste. So this would be like the plan. And we already see active movement from the private sector. So the Federation of Thai Industry, they have like a tip and say pack bag. We have PPP plastic, like with the multi-stakeholder and the Pro Thailand network. And now they kind of form together as under the name Proof. So we're really looking forward to see more progress from the industry to prepare themselves with the Pro and then all the mechanism that have been drafted in the law. To conclude it, because this is just 10 minutes. Sorry if I go too fast, but if I go back to the model of Thomas Lindquist back then in 2001, I would say that our law is focused mainly on financial responsibility, so that the darkened part, a little bit on physical responsibility on the local government, but the producer have to help through the PRO. Liability, we try to keep it as like minimum, so hopefully there will be no one going to jail because of this one, but there is financial fine on that. And then, of course, informative responsibility is quite important for like education and awareness rising. So this is what we draft, and hopefully in the future we can make the real improvement, you know, on this issue. So that's it. Thank you for your
Yeah.
attention. Sorry if I go a little bit over time.
Thank you, Dr.
Very
Panate.
happy for any question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Panate, for your presentation. Now we move to the second speaker, Mr. Rocky Pairunan from NPEP Indonesia. Please, Mr. Rocky.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Arisman and Dr. Panate. Happy to what do you call it? Listen to your presentation again, being refreshed with the how do you call it, the origin of EPR. So I guess the slide will be controlled by the organizer, correct, guys? Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, I would like to introduce my name. I'm Rocky Parunan, currently the manager for National Plastic Action Partnership, a platform that is being secretariat by WRI Indonesia. I'm based in Jakarta. I will share a bit on EPR progress in Indonesia. Well, I would say the producer responsibility progress in Indonesia. So next slide, please. Yes, maybe a bit on the National Plastic Action Partnership. What is the platform? The platform is actually established in 2020. Actually, during the World Economic Forum session in Davos, where the WEF they call it initiated the global initiative on plastic action partnership to combating marine plastic pollution or marine plastic debris. And when Indonesia within the same time frame, Indonesia also had issued the national action plan to address marine debris in 2018. Therefore, it was a critical juncture as well to mobilize support and collaboration among stakeholders, from government, from private sectors and GSO, due to the situation of plastic pollution that cannot be addressed solely by government. So against the backdrop, Indonesia in this context is the coordinating ministry of maritime and investment at the time voluntarily would like to nationalize the concept of global plastic action partnership. So Indonesia, together with Vietnam, at the time became the first NPAP established to mobilize collaborative efforts of different stakeholders in addressing plastic pollution. So what NPAP is doing is basically we are convening a platform, so we facilitate the discussion of different various stakeholders in different relevant topics. EPR is one of the big topics. We also discuss regarding issue on financing, on how to finance plastic circularity, and we also play a critical convening role for matchmaking potential they call it potential investment to the innovators, as well as with this convening platform, we are hoping that the discussion that is taken place within NPAP, or let's say beyond NPAP after the convening event, can drive policy change to the better approach for addressing plastic pollution. So NPAP doesn't have they call it activity on the ground, but mostly we are part of the process in terms of consultation, in terms of reaching out wider stakeholders as part of NPAP. Next slide. Yeah, so this is going to be quick. NPAP basically consists of over than 100 members, mostly are private sectors, some also government agencies, government ministerial agencies and academia, the private sectors coming from multinationals companies and national companies as well, also innovators and NGOs. So it's a very wide spectrum of types of stakeholders that involve, and shows that how wide that issues that can be discussed within the NPA platform. But at the moment, we are still focusing on the top priorities like EPR, and then also reuse refill, and as well as how to strengthen the innovation to address the plastic pollution. Next slide. Yes, this slide will I will share about the EPR, or let's say producer responsibility in Indonesia, because I think at the moment by law the term of extended is not there yet. So it's part of producer responsibility. So producer responsibility within the waste management law is basically throughout it's already it is already included the waste management or the post-consumer stage. Therefore, in the article of waste management law states that the producers are responsible for disposal non-compostable. So the benchmark is basically a compostable material. So if the producers are unable to utilize or scientifically proven compostable materials for packaging, then they have to bear the responsibility to take care the packaging, so it cannot end up as waste. So that's actually the how do you call it, the interpretation of this article, and then how to operationalize that article. So there is a ministerial regulation of environment and forestries in 2019 issued on waste reduction roadmaps by producers. So this is actually dubbed as a let's say roadmap for EPR in Indonesia, because it governs, or let's say it provides directions for producers in Indonesia manufacturing. So like Dr. Pana mentioned about the tricky situation in Thailand on how to determine the scope of producers. Indonesia, I think, also face the same situation. So producers at the moment is categorized into manufacturers, retails, and food and beverage service. So manufacturers meaning here is how do you call it, brand owners, and retails, of course, the retail companies or shops or retail chain. And then food and beverage service, it includes hotels and cafe and restaurant. The timelines basically starting the 2019 and starting 2020 after the issuance, the enactment of the roadmap, is that all the eligible, or let's say companies should make a planning document and submit it to the ministry as the regulator and as the authority to monitor the implementation of this waste reduction by producers. So basically, producer needs to come up with their plan, how much how they can reduce, or let's say how they can avoid their packaging from becoming waste by 30% by 2029. So basically, it's the target is 30% for reductions through the let's say redesigning, and through recycling that involves collections, and through the basically the same redesigning, and for reusing, basically changing the packaging from one single type, single purpose, to the reusable purpose. So basically the planning document has to be submitted by manufacturer, and then if the producers decide to go for the how do you call it, for the line of recycling, therefore they have to come up with a plan also to how to collect the packaging waste that will be recycled, as well as to prove how much it's been recycled, how much the packaging that cannot be recycled, and due to the quality of the products and so on. So basically, it's somehow aligned with the most EPR principle, but at the same time, in the implementation, this approach does not apply sort of like an eco-modulation to encourage basically to encourage the transition process from packaging that cannot be recycled, or it's not feasible to be recycled, to be more recyclable. So it's something that that's pretty much different with the EPR that is common in other countries. Yes, I think most of the But then at the moment, I think due to the what is the good news is that because most of our Southeast Asian region is already embarking the how do you call it, more regulated EPR, like Thailand is planning now to enact the specific EPR law under the sustainable packaging, if not mistaken, law. And then I think also Vietnam is the first country in Southeast Asia that has come up with EPR law. And I think Philippines also has amended the waste management law, where Philippines colleagues from Philippines already inserted the component of EPR in the articles. So I think in Indonesia there is a how do you call it, trajectory that this roadmap can be the basis for the development of more legal as a legal framework, as maybe in the format of law, or in the format of higher than ministerial regulation, as the umbrella for EPR in Indonesia. The process is still ongoing, and I think we are on the right track in terms of coming up with the more regulatory based EPR. Next slide. Yeah, this actually the slide that I have shared the information earlier, that the roadmaps basically they call it clusterize the definition, the scope of producers, manufacturers. Under the manufacturers here is usually brand owner. There is a food, beverage, and consumer goods and cosmetics. Retails, of course, the chain of stores and food and beverage. But what is the difference is that for manufacturers, basically focusing on the packaging, but retails and food and beverage is they have the responsibility to reduce the single-use plastic, how do you call it, materials. So not material, basically single-use plastic tools, I would say, like plastic bag, straw, and so on. So for the retails and food and beverage service, they are in the very downstream basis. So there is no this roadmap does not ban in terms of selling what do you call it, single-use plastic in the market. So single-use plastic in the market still there, but then for the retails and food beverage to provide single-use plastics, it will be limited. While for the manufacturers, it will be focused on the brand owners at the moment, because it is a legislation. Sorry, it's a legislation. It's a product of law. The main target of this roadmap to be implemented is that the multinational companies, or bigger companies, I would say, but then also the roadmap has not defined the scope or this literally in the text. So basically, it's a discretion by the authority that okay, the first stage for the first stage for this roadmap to be implemented is by the multinational companies and national companies who have the capability to do so. While for SMEs, for companies that is not in the position yet, they might need to what do you call it, to wait, I would say, a tolerance not to implement. But I think the roadmap should be implemented by any types of manufacturers in Indonesia. So it's universal targeting. But then of course for the period until 2029, the priorities is for the multinational companies. The roadmap also, as I mentioned, because this roadmap doesn't constitute eco-modulation or mechanism how the EPR, how the take back should be or the collection should be adopted or should be run. Therefore, the roadmap already take the shortcut given the situation of waste management in Indonesia. For instance, there are several types of packaging materials that can be recycled, but it's not really feasible to be recycled. So the shortcut to limit or to reduce the potential leakage of materials that cannot be recycled to the environment is by phasing out the types of materials. So the type of materials is PVC and polystyrene, both and NPP. Both can be recycled, but maybe in terms of feasibility, in terms of price, is not really feasible under in the market. I mean, it can be recycled. The price might be good, but it has to be subsidized, for instance. So therefore, that's the shortcut that is taken. And I think in other countries also there is already consideration for banning types of materials that has been proven that cannot be feasible to be recycled anyway, because or recycled in terms of like closed loop or open loop, because the price is not feasible, and then the market is not good. So basically there is a direction to get there, and Indonesia already taken the leapfrog in terms of preventing that situation. Yeah, next slide.
Oh, 1 minute left.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, Pak. Maybe last two slides. This slides is basically showing how the mechanism of the EPR in Indonesia. The first one is the Indonesia. The mechanism is it's sort of like a voluntary in terms of how it is implemented. But then in terms of targeting, in terms of it must be implemented, it must by the companies. But then how it is implemented, it depends on the each companies to work on it. So there are at least two ways, either through how do you call it, the third party or the PRO that link with different waste streams to help the companies in terms of the implementation of this the roadmap. But at the same time, the one who has to responsible reporting to the system that is managed by the authority is the companies. So the companies has on the planning and the reporting, but the third party, the PRO, helps the companies in order to achieve the targets. And also the individual is mostly and it's very common, especially for the multinational companies, where the companies has their own target, and then they work directly with the waste collection actor, mostly West Bank, mostly I think they have their own even set up their own MRF and so on. But then again, the challenge is that because the individual is quite expensive, as maybe not all companies have the capacity to do so. And the other challenges that because it is given to the companies to the markets to run by itself without sort of like jury or referee, so it might create a problematic situation, like the waste collection actors might not have not all waste collection actors have similar capacity. So there is a potential with the high demands of companies to collect certain tonnage of packaging, and then they directly work with the waste collection actor where the capacity is very low, and that would create a situation where like potentially double counting and so on. So this is actually situation that might be faced due to the what do you call it, mechanism that is given to the market to decide. And next slide. Yes, I think this is the last slide. What is NPAP is doing at the moment? We are working to set up the working group focusing on EPR. So basically, because the aim is to come up to produce a more regulatory framework of EPR, more therefore I think a consultation involving of various relevant stakeholders is important. Therefore we would like to convene the stakeholders to come up with the idea how EPR models in Indonesia can be implemented, and at the same time also the waste management in Indonesia can be improved. I think that's all from my side, Pak Aris. Feel free to receive any questions if any. Thank you. Back to you. Sorry for the overtime.
Yeah, thank you, Rocky. Now we move to Mr. Nakmi from UNDP Cambodia, representing NFAP. Please, Nakmi, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, and also the doctors, Arishman, for inviting me to join. And again, I believe the slide presentation will be managed by the organizer. So yes. All right. So, okay, let me introduce a little bit. So my name is Nakmi. I am working with UNDP Cambodia. And also is assigned as the NCAP managers for Cambodia. So for your information, UNDP Cambodia has a lot of project and program with relevant ministry in Cambodia. And to be specific, say on the EPR, we are working closely with the Ministry of Environment, and we have working together to come up with a roadmap where I'm going to share right now. But before that, perhaps this is a very early stage for Cambodia, but I believe at least as organizer mentioned, this is the time where we can reflect together where we are now. And I can also see from the positive point of view that because a few countries in the region already advanced on this sector, so perhaps this is also a good opportunity for Cambodia, where we can learn from neighboring country, and then we can reflect based on our context. So next, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, so my content, I'm going to start with, as I mentioned earlier, this is very early stage for Cambodia to share, but yeah, at least we have something already start on the EPR. So yeah, I don't have much information to share, and I hope 10 minutes is good for us. So just for content, and please next slide. Yes, Yeah, as based on our assessment, and this is the something that we have identified, and I'm not going to repeat because everyone here might be very experts on this already. But at least for us, we find out the importance of the EPR for Cambodia. For example, like we have learned that more than 60 countries around the world adopt various form of EPR. And also beings testing, implementing, and others. So this is why we are starting to look at this area for implementation in Cambodia too. So next, please. So based on our assessment, we have identified or defined the EPR organizations in Cambodia. So we have learned that there are a lot of partners and stakeholders to be included in order to implement EPR. For example, like the government play a crucial role in defining any rule and regulations, and also manage the implementation of the EPR's frameworks in general. And at the same time, we also need the involvement from the producer. The producer is not only from private sector, but perhaps the others. So we use the word producer as they also need to be involved in order to make the EPR achieve the plan. Other than that, as the previous speaker mentioned, it is good to have a clear structure, role and responsibility of each partners. For example, like the producer responsibility organization, or we call PRO, the organization that's going to facilitate and implement this at the country level, for example. On top of that, we believe that the waste management operators also a key role where we need to include them, make sure that we are not left everyone behind. So yes, this is a part of the structure that we have identified in our roadmaps. Next slide, please. And then we also discuss about how to operationalize EPR. If I not mistaken, I heard from the previous speaker mentioned that it is a little bit complicated. So that is why we need to think the following question. For example, like who are the producers, and what products to be included under EPR? Of course, because for example, like when we talk about plastic, there are many different types of plastics, but so for this, we need to identify the kind of product to be included under EPR. Otherwise, this will be, it's not really easy to manage. And for the context of Cambodia, for example, perhaps we are not a producer, but we are import, most of the products from outside. Then this is very important that we need to identify what type of product, what kind of product to be included under EPR and so on. And then we also need to discuss what are the role and responsibility of the different actors, ranking from the producer, waste operators, and other. And indeed, we also need to identify let's say the organization where or the actor where they can manage the funds from the EPR to ensure the transparency and accountability and so on. So yeah, this is what we have identified the key question to be considered in order to be able to operationalize EPR in the context of Cambodia. Next, please. Yes, just straight to the point. As I mentioned earlier, we don't really have much progress about this because we just start. But within our roadmap, we have identified in two phases for the EPR in Cambodia. The phase one we call voluntary base. So at the voluntary base, we will target like what we call low-hanging fruits, which means we are not we just start to identify the products which easier and faster to introduce to the EPR. And at the same time, we also need to develop any measurements and also, any law and regulation to be adapted in order to be able to manage the import of those relevant products that we identify to be included under EPR, for example. And we also at the voluntary phase, we also think about piloting and testing the different EPR measure. So far we have UNDP have organized a few study tour to our neighboring country. We invite the relevant government ministry from the Ministry of Environment, Economics and Finance and others in order to learn from the others country on how to develop EPR and also how to test to be able to develop a good measure for the EPR in Cambodia. The second phase we call mandatory. So from the voluntary base, we will work more on the point that I mentioned earlier. But at the mandate, and then we will move to a mandatory phase, which means all of identified products, producers, and other stakeholders that are defined under those rules and regulations need to be implement their role and application in line with the EPR guidance. So yes, this is also something that we have already identified, but still as of now, everything is still ongoing discussion. Next, please. So just more information about the voluntary phase. So far, we put the timeline like from the 2022. Okay, a little bit back, we discussed this in 2022, and then we set the target at that time until 2025. We will start the voluntary base. And as I mentioned earlier, the voluntary base, including the designs of the bands of the product, identifies, introduce tax levies on the plastic products, create incentive for private sector. For example, as I mentioned, why we introduce the tax, because Cambodia is not a producing country, but we are more imports. More products from the country, from others. At this stage, we need also to raise awareness about EPR and piloting. Why awareness is important, no matter how good rule and regulation you adopt, but if people, other stakeholders did not aware about this, perhaps it's really hard for to mobilize those to implement this well. Next, please. Yes, we also for the mandatory phase, we identify from 2026 onward. We will recommend to implement EPR in Cambodia as a mandatory base, and as I said earlier, so this will be annex all of relevant rule and regulation, include everybody to implement their role and responsibility. However, we also foresee that EPR is a little bit complicated, as we mentioned earlier. So perhaps the timeline that we have identified in our roadmap might work or not work. But for the moment, we try our best to stick with that timeline, and we start to, for example, like with the government, we start to develop a few rule and regulation already, including the, for example, like the plastic management law and the eco-labeling law, in order to be able to identify the type of products to be included in the EPR, as I mentioned earlier. So yes, I think this is my last slide. So this is what is the progress in Cambodia. So yes, thank you so much, and happy to share if any question.
Thank you, Nakmi. Now we move to the last one from Vietnam, please. Anda, the time is yours.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Arisman, for inviting me to join this interesting discussion, a webinar about the EPR and how it can help tackle plastic pollution in the region. Should I share from my side, share the screen, or
Feel free if you want to share from your side, or we can help you, please. Which one you prefer?
maybe you
Okay,
you share from
we can
your side.
support you. Yeah, please. Organize it.
Yes, so my name is Anh. Currently, I'm the manager of Vietnam National Plastic Action Partnership. So really happy to have other colleagues from ANPAP Cambodia and ANPAP Indonesia also joining the webinar today. Vietnam ANPAP is also it's a multi-stakeholder partnership. As a result of the collaboration between the World Economic Forum and the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment of Vietnam. And currently, Vietnam ANPAP is hosted by UNDP Vietnam. So in Vietnam, EPR, we are quite considered one of the I would say pioneering country in the region to have EPR policy available, and it provide a lot of like a promising change in the Vietnam plastic waste management. Next slide, please. Yeah, I just go very quickly with this slide because it shows that where we are now, Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, the Philippines, the Southeast Asian region, we are quite like on the list of the worldwide plastic leakage area. Next slide, please. Here you see we are still on the list by the Ocean Conservancy. And the list of the top 50 countries that emit most ocean plastics. That's the reason why we have like a lot of discussion and joining this webinar today. Next slide, please. You can see here the photo we took in Vietnam, in different places in Vietnam, including both the coastal area and the mountainous area, and plastic are there. There are a lot of plastic still there. We have a lot of efforts to tackle the plastic pollution in the country. Next slide. So plastic pollution in Asia and Southeast Asia. From the statistica, Asia account for a half of the total plastic global plastic production. And 10% of that is end up in the ocean. There's so many actions implemented in the region. In 2019, Bangkok, we have Bangkok Declaration on Combating Marine Plastic Debris, and a number of country action plans and measures issued. In Vietnam, we already issued the National Action Plan on Marine Plastic Debris. In 2022, many countries reached an agreement about a legal binding on plastic pollution that should be discussed. And now we see the ongoing discussion and negotiation of the Global Plastic Treaty, which is expected to be finalized by the end of this year. Next slide, please. So I want to say further about plastic and waste management in EPR in Vietnam with the following slides, please. So EPR in the ASEAN country. So I'm quite proud that in 2022, Vietnam became the first Southeast Asian country to implement a compulsory extended producer responsibility. Following that, the Philippines also the act for EPR applicable for plastic packaging, and Indonesia also have a roadmap, as my colleague from ANPAP Indonesia already shared, and Cambodia is under development process for that. Next slide, please. Now we in the development process and the Law on Environmental Protection 2020, with that law, we changed the EPR from voluntary phase to obligatory or mandatory phase with the mandatory recycling rate and treatment and mandatory recycling method. For Vietnam, the voluntary phase, like we established the collection point with high standard, and no waste collects. So I would say that for Vietnam, the voluntary scheme didn't work really well. That's the reason why the obligatory EPR is really important, and we expect a lot with this obligatory phase of EPR. Next slide, please. With this graph, it describes the Vietnam EPR mechanism. And we already established the National EPR Council. The council consists of different agencies and organizations from the government organization. It decided to support cycling and waste treatment activities. And the EPR office is established to support the work of the National EPR Council. And MONRE responsible for register the responsibility of the producer and control the system. So we already have the Vietnam Environmental Protection Fund. So this is the like a producer have a different option in terms of EPR implementation in the country. Producer or importer can like do the recycling responsibility by themselves, or they can hire like a recyclers to do that responsibility, or they can do that through the PR. But there's one option is to pay an amount of money to the Vietnam Environmental Protection Fund. So there's different option for EPR implementation. Next slide, please. In the law of environmental protection, there are 2 articles regulate the EPR for the country. The first is Article 55, that is the producer treatment responsibility, and it comes into effect on the 1st of January in 2022. And you can see here there's different subjects, different categories here, including pesticides, disposable battery, gum, diapers, cigarettes, disposable plastic fibers. All these are under this the producer treatment responsibility. Next slide, please. And the Article 54 of the Law of Environmental Protection regulate the producer recycling responsibilities. And you see the roadmap for it covers 6 categories under the EPR scheme, including packaging, battery, lubricant, tire, electrical products, and transport vessels. So we also have the roadmap for the implementing the EPR scheme for each category. So for packaging, battery, lubricant, and tire, the regulation will come into effect on the 1st January of 2004. While for electrical products, it will come into effect into 1st January of 2025, and for vehicle, it will be in 2027. So packaging is the most like getting most concern about from different stakeholders, from different producer and importer. It will cover the food and beverage, cosmetic, drug, fertilizer and livestock food, detergent, medicine, and cements. So like a EPR in Vietnam cover quite a lot of like different categories compared, I would say that compared to other country in the region. Next slide, please. Yes, they describe 6 groups of packagings. But there's some exceptions, like a producer and importers of product and packaging to be exported or temporarily imported or produced for research, learning, or testing purposes will be exception for the EPR. And producer of packaging having revenue from the sale of goods and provision of service of the previous year under about 1.2 million US dollar, or importer of packaging have a total value of imports of the previous year under 800,000 US dollar will be exempt from EPR implementation. Next slide, please. So the common, I would say about the common issues of developing countries in ASEAN region. We are having high levels of plastic production, and the production of plastic plastic production industry contribute a lot to the industry of the country, but we produce plastic waste, and consider the infrastructure, the waste management infrastructure is not good enough to handle the waste generated, and lack of awareness and education, instead of the fact that there's a lot of project and program and different like a campaign to reduce single-use plastic, or share about the impact of plastic waste on the environment and human health. And one important point is we have a large number of informal waste workers that contribute to the waste management, the solid waste management in the country. In some countries like Vietnam, we still allow plastic waste import, and incineration still being considered an option for like treating the low-value plastic waste, and is supported by many local government.
Yeah.
Slide, please.
2 minutes left, please.
Okay, thank you. So this is just sharing what Vietnam National Plastic Action Partnership and UNDP is doing to support EPR implementation in the country. Currently, UNDP is doing a study on inclusive EPR and waste management scheme that deliver benefits to the informal sector, because we understand and we recognize the role of the informal sector in the solid waste management in the country, and we believe that they should have a role in the EPR system and can get benefit from EPR. And we also provide technical assistance to the National EPR Office to help them to build more capacity, because they play a very important role in supporting the successful implementation of EPR. And Vietnam and PAP facilitate like different discussion about EPR related topics. You can see the photo here. So we organized a consultation meeting just a couple of months ago about the role of informal waste worker in solid waste management and implementing EPR. And we invite the EPR office and representative from different stakeholders joining the discussion and find the solutions for integrating the EPR, integrating the informal sector to the EPR. And this is the photo of more recent, also a recent meeting about the feasibility study of the deposit return system we call DIS, and how it can support the EPR implementation. And we also have to promote community-based waste and plastic management model and support the establishment of waste collector clubs in our project site. Currently, UNDP have support 2 multi-stakeholder partnerships, including Vietnam NPAP and Circular Economy Hub, where EPR is still like a part of the discussion, and we try to facilitate the implementation. Next slide, please. So here is some suggestion for the next step. So in Vietnam, we encourage the EPR implementation through the producer responsibility organizations, because it is the having EPR with the standard pro is the model that many developed countries have already developed and very successful. So that's the best option for EPR. But we in Vietnam, we still have other option, and paying EPR fund to the government. It might be an acceptable option in the early stage of EPR implementation, but in a long run, pro model is should be promoted. Step by step, the mandatory recycling rate should be increased for some commodities. That will have the producers to invest more to improve the product design and recycling technology. And one more important thing is the transparency for the EPR scheme is really important. So a robust reporting and auditing system are very vital. And we expect less waste go into incineration, and co-processing for non-recyclable materials could be one solution. And as I already shared, we keen on supporting the informal sector. Private partnership is important, driving change, and would have a lot for a transition to a circular economy in the country. I think that's the last slide for my presentation. Thank you very much, and welcome any questions and comments.
Thank you, Anne, for your presentation. Due to limitation of time, I suggest for the speakers to answer the question from the participant. I saw in the chat box there's a question from Thailand, AIT, and also from Philippines. Is it okay? Because we have to move to the second session, and I believe the first session and the second session will be interlinked. So the discussion will be followed by the second session as well. So again, I don't want to open the floor because due of the time, and let's continue for the second session. I give it back to Jihan, MC.
Yes.
Thank you to all the speakers for your presentation. Thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Arisman. Thank you, all speakers. Now we move to session 2, Producer Initiative to Enhance EPR Implementation in ASEAN Countries. I would like to hand the floor over to Rachel Karasik, research scientist at the Norwegian Institute for Water Research. Please, Rachel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jihan. Thank you, Dr. Arisman, for organizing, and to all the speakers for being here. I'm Rachel Karasik. I'm a research scientist with the Norwegian Institute for Water Research. I know that we are running short on time, so I'll quickly introduce our speakers and then hand the floor to each of them to give their presentations. So we have Tan Chu, who's the Chief Operating Officer for the Packaging Recycling Organization in Vietnam. Michikazu Kojima, who's a Senior Research Fellow on Environmental Issues at the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia. Jason Anam, who is the Advocacy and Public Affairs Manager with the Malaysian Recycling Alliance, Berhad. Ariana Susanti, with the Business Development Director for the Indonesian Packaging Federation. And Mayuri Arunwaranan, the Project Manager for the Packaging Recovery Organization for the Thailand Network. So quite a diverse group who will be kind of speaking from the perspective of producers. So I will hand the floor to Ms. Tan Chu with the Packaging Recycling Organization in Vietnam. And you can either share your screen or our friends at CSEAS will help us out. Take it away.
I think I will try to share my screen. Do you see my screen? Hello?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we see it.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Thanh Chu from Pro Vietnam Social Enterprise. So I think from the beginning, we repeatedly mentioned about Pro in different countries. So I think it's not really necessary to present what is Pro. I will go quickly to the Pro Vietnam a little bit more on our vision, mission, and ambition. And then what we did during the last time, preparing for the EPR implementation mandatory from this year. So Pro Vietnam, we was established in 2019 with the vision of being a key contributor to make Vietnam clean, green, and beautiful. And as the name indicates, packaging recycling organization, our mission is to drive the circular economy in Vietnam and make the packaging recycling more accessible and sustainable. Our target, our ambition is that by 2030, we can collect and recycle 100% of all the packaging that our members put into the market. You can see that from the 9 founding members in 2019, we are now 26 members. The increase slowed down a little bit during the COVID, but now with the EPR implementation, we have a lot of, let's say, candidate member on the list, and we will work together to make EPR in Vietnam a succeed. Here is you have the list of our members. The majority are the producers, FMCG in Vietnam, on the leading companies, Vietnam and MNC. And we also have a packaging manufacturer and recyclers. And amongst these, they are all the very important players in the Vietnam market. We also have retailers, Saigon Co-op and An Nam Hoc Mê. They are in the market for a while, and they are very keen on sustainability and environment issue. I will go quick to the second part of my presentation with all the actions and initiatives that Pro Vietnam implement together, and some of the action that each of our members had done during the last years. From the establishment of Pro Vietnam in 2019, we started as soon to work with moderator, the Ministry of Nature and Resources and Environment of Vietnam, and we can say that we can proudly say that the EPR regulations in Vietnam has a lot of contribution from Pro member, and for now we continue to communicate via different media to promote the good EPR oriented practices from our members, from ourselves. We work with VTV, the national television, and we produce monthly episodes on the EPR oriented practice. We share on the green production, green packaging practice from our members. We also built a special page. It's a permanent special page with Tuổi Trẻ, a major newspaper in Vietnam, to target the young generation to change the behaviors towards EPR. We also work a lot with on the residential areas and on the schools. We roll out educational communication. I think I will go through it very quick because I think I have only 10 minutes and I still have a lot to do. And we
You have 5 minutes.
Sorry?
You have 5 minutes left.
Okay. We also work a lot with other stakeholders. For example, ASEAN, we work a lot with ASEAN on the waste segregation pilot project. We also do some research to understand about the awareness and also the behavior of our customer, our, let's say, end users. We will also implement a research on informal sectors. As during the previous presentation from NPAP Vietnam, you can see that we are all aware that informal sectors are playing a crucial role in the EPR in Vietnam. It's different color, but it's kind of same screen that the Anh Đăng from NPAP Vietnam already present. So I just mentioned that Pro Vietnam in this screen we are authorized we have the recognition from Moderator Vietnam to be the third party, and which is very encouraged to be, let's say, the main role or the main player in EPR implementation in Vietnam. We meet on the requirement, and for the time being, we are the first and the only packaging third party for EPR implementation in Vietnam. And we started our collection and recycling project from 2022 to prepare for the mandatory EPR from 2024. We start working with all our recyclers, collectors, and also auditors to identify the reporting mandatory for EPR in Vietnam. For the time being, we cover 7 types of materials: PET, aluminum can, paper cartons, the EU beverage cartons, HDPE, and the mono and multi-material flexible plastic. Last year, we collect and recycle nearly 14,000 metric tons. And for this year, our objective is 70,000 metric tons. It's the request from all our members for EPR implementation. And we are quite confident that we can achieve this target. This is the technical models how we apply to for our collection and recycling project. We work directly with recyclers and collectors. We pay the incentive to promote the domestic collection of our own materials that we need. For more difficult materials, we work directly with collectors. So we pay recyclers and collectors for plastic, for flexible plastic and UBC. These are what we apply. And in the future, we also want to work with the producer that use recycled material in their product. to ensure the outcome for our recyclers. And on this process, we work with the supervision of a third party as an official auditor. This is some of the action that we developed the spoon stream for the difficult materials for mixed paper packaging or flexible packaging. We also implement a lot of what we call the greenhouse to collect all the waste in different residential area. That's all the part that pro-Vietnam members work together on. Now, for this, the last party, I want to share some action from our members. Yeah. So
you have just 1 minute. Tom, you have just 1 minute. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we try to. All our members, they already apply a lot of good practice. They use lighter packaging. They remove all unnecessary part. For example, the cover, the seal, or they use on the on-pack communication. They also replace with more recyclable material. They also use 100% or some of the package 50% recycled plastic in the packaging, and they also apply a lot of. Sorry, I want to return a little bit on the collection. Yeah, some of our members, they develop their own collection on top of what they mandate Pro-Vietnam to collect for them. They promote on the RVM and also the digitalization of the collection system to transparent traceability. And I think that this is before the last one on the action that our members apply to ensure the transformation to sustainability. And as we visit some of the EPR in other countries, we understand that EPR is a very difficult and complex system, and we know that during on this journey we're gonna have to adapt, and we will continue to work with Monterey and all other stakeholders to ensure that our ambition by 2030 we can collect and recycle 100% of the packaging our members put into the market. I think that's all for PRO Vietnam.
Great. Thank you so much for your amazing work. And we'll move on to the next speaker, Mr. Michikazu Kojima. Do you need us to share screen, or can you do it yourself?
Yeah, I'd like to share my file. I revised a little bit, so yeah, let me.
Okay. Take it away.
Okay. Can you see the slide? Or maybe.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe present.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is Kojima. I would like to have some kind of reply to some questions in the speakers. I think. Yeah, maybe I speak a little bit. One of the speakers mentioned about the polystyrene is not so used, but like a styrofoam. expanded polystyrene. In case of in Japan, we have a lot of the how to say, we using a kind of a lot of the expanded polystyrene or styrofoam in the fish market, and but they can recycle that kind of EPS, expanded polystyrene. The key is a kind of a compressing machines. The how say, styrofoam is very bulky, so it is better to how say, reduce the volume. Then transportation cost is much cheaper. So then they can send kind of the EPS to the recyclers. So the key of the recycling of EPS is a kind of how to reduce the transportation cost. And also, yeah, like expanded polystyrene is used in the ocean also, using as a kind of float. But yeah, so there are this is one of the how say, compressing or reducing the volume of the EPS, the machine. And also the other kind of the alternative of the such kind of the plastic used in the ocean. Yeah, some companies made a new kind of the cover of the EPS and tried and high durability of float, so using in the ocean. So there are some kind of alternative, how to say, the float instead of the expanded polystyrene. And the next, we use a lot of the polystyrene tray, PSP tray, for sashimi and fish. Selling the supermarket in the supermarket or shops, but there are kind of a collection program by the producers of this kind of the tray. So when they how to say, they deliver the tray to the supermarket or shops, then they bring back the used waste tray from the shops, so they can save the money. How say, transportation cost. When they deliver the new tray, they bring back the used one. So the key is how to reduce the transportation cost, reducing the volume, or just deliver the materials and take back the waste. That is one of the key. And also in Japan, we have a lot of the kind of industrial standards for recycled products, including plastic products, recycled plastic products. And such kind of the industrial standards can be utilized by public procurement. So there are many kind of the types of the industrial standard for the recycled plastics products. So for example, this is a PVC pipe, like a pipe for waters or drainage and so on. So the core, the red one, the core layer is a recycled PVC, but inner and outer layers are made from the how say, virgin PVC. So water is not touch on the core recycled PVC. So only the virgin plastics, how say, the water touch on these kind of how say, the pipe. And also this is wood plastics, how say, recycled composite. So it's made from the wood and the plastics. It's kind of very, how say, durable kind of materials. So they can this is a kind of the use of the in the kind of the, how say, outer space. It is very how say, durable one. So there are, how say, not only the EPR, I mean the producer's responsibility is okay, but you should consider the kind of the take care, the kind of the demand of the recycled goods. and one of them is this kind of industrial standard for recycled products, and which can be utilized by the government also. Then public procurement programs support such kind of the recycling industries. So that is lessons from Japan. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kojima.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm sure people will have questions in the chat, or if you wanted to address some of the questions you've seen for other participants, I would invite you to do so.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll move
Okay.
on. Yeah, thank you so much. Very interesting. I did not know about the industry standards for Japan. We'll move on to our next speaker, Jason Ano, who's the Advocacy and Public Affairs Manager with the Malaysian Recycling Alliance Berhad. Jason, are you able to share your screen, or do you need us to do it?
Yes, let me try and share my screen on my end. Oh, hang on. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right,
Floor is
fabulous.
yours.
Cool. Right, thank you, Rachel. Right, good afternoon or good evening, depending on the time zone. Thank you, CSEAS, for inviting me to this webinar. So my name is Jason. I'm the Advocacy and Public Affairs Manager at the Malaysian Recycling Alliance, also known as MARIA. So I'll be looking into what our producer initiatives are to enhance EPR currently in Malaysia. So a brief introduction to who we are at MARIA. So MARIA, we are a coalition of some of the largest FMCGs which are operating in Malaysia. So we are a voluntary producer, industry-led PRO. We are advocating for a mandatory EPR system in Malaysia. Currently, there is no mandate for EPR in Malaysia, but we are hoping for that to come up very, very soon. So we were established in January 2021 by our key founding companies on the left. Over the period between 2021 and now, we've grown our membership to include quite a few of the larger FMCG companies are operating in Malaysia. So this includes a good mix of your multinationals as well as your local companies. So one of the things that we've always emphasized on at MARIA is that we want to be a coalition of like-minded companies, whether it's your big MNCs or your SMEs. So we always encourage any companies, any brand owners or potential obliged industries in Malaysia to come and join us. That it is not necessarily a coalition meant for the big companies, but an all-inclusive coalition across the board, whether you're a big company or a small SME. Unique to MARIA, we also have a distinction between the two columns you see on the left and the right. So the column on the left with our founding companies and our main contributors, those members are our main contributors, and they are the ones who we foresee as most likely to become obliged industries in Malaysia when EPR becomes mandatory. And on the right, we have members who we call them associate contributors, who have an interest in sustainability or are in one way or another connected to sustainability, either through their packaging products or their packaging solutions as well. So looking into where we are in Malaysia, so zooming out from who we are in Malaysia, I'll give a brief insight into what the policy and regulatory framework currently is in Malaysia. So right now, in terms of policies in Malaysia, I have to highlight that Malaysia is unique in the sense that we don't really have we don't have a focal point essentially when it comes to who's in charge of EPR, plastics, and sustainability. So it's spread over two ministries. One ministry, KPKG, that's the Ministry of Local Government and Housing, and the other ministry, formerly known as the Ministry of Natural Resources, Environment and Climate Change, now the Ministry of Natural Resources, Environment and Sustainability. These two ministries, in one way or another, look into sustainability and look into plastics. So we have to navigate as MARIA, as an industry, between these two ministries. So the journey for Malaysia towards EPR and plastic sustainability is only properly started around 2007, when the Solid Waste and Public Cleansing Management Act was enacted in Malaysia. So within this particular act, which looks into the centralization of solid waste, the concept of EPR was introduced. So it looked into it looked into buyback or recovery schemes there as well. So the idea has always been there, but has not really been implemented. Parallel to that, from 2018 onwards, around the same time when plastic really became an issue in Malaysia, the other ministry, the Ministry of Natural Resources, Environment and Sustainability, also looked into plastics. So their mandate became more focused on plastics. So they ended up coming up with roadmaps into how to reduce plastic usage, how to reduce marine litter, and how to make plastic sustainable. So a lot of our objectives and a lot of our focus has been on aligning Maria's ideas, objectives, and mission statement with this particular plan. However, as EPR, as the idea of EPR is gaining traction in Malaysia, very soon they will be release the upcoming Circular Economy for Solid Waste Blueprint that will be hopefully released in 2024, and that will give much better guidelines and a proper roadmap into how EPR can and should be mandated and made mandatory in Malaysia. So currently, we are working with the Malaysia Plastic Sustainability Roadmap 2021 to 2030 in our guidelines. But what we foresee is that this particular timeline, this particular step-by-step approach will most likely be the same approach that the Malaysian government will be using when they come up with a firmer a guideline on what EPR will look like. So right now, we're in 2023, 2024, we're currently at the adoption of a voluntary EPR stage. That is something I'll be talking to in a bit shortly. But the key part here is that mandatory EPR hopefully will be coming in, not in 2026, but maybe further down the line in potentially 2028, if not 2030. So over at Maria, when we were designing what we were doing, our objectives and our mission statement, we made sure that we aligned with a policy consideration. So among our 4 key objectives would be 1, to minimize to achieve a minimum recycling rate of 25% of members' packaging volumes by 2025, to maximize the use of recycled and renewable materials in our packaging, to promote separation and collection at source, as well as to avoid post-consumer packaging material leakage into the environment. So right now, we'll look into what we do in Maria, both as a coalition as well as at our member level as well. So we'll be looking into intervention models, ongoing projects, as well as outcomes. So individually, and do let me know if I speak a bit too fast. Individually, the members all know that they have to have sustainability in their mind, because a lot of our members have already, like the other members in the other PROs in the region, they already have made their own global commitments. So they will be held accountable to those commitments. So our members individually have their own initiatives. Some of them have designed their products and their packaging so that it is well equipped for recycling. So our member Ajinomoto now, Ajinomoto Malaysia, they use monomaterial in the packaging products for ease of recycling. Likewise, our members Mondelez and Colgate Palmolive, their packaging for their products are also ready to recycle. It may not necessarily be monomaterial, but it is designed to be ready to recycle. And our member Dutch Lady is also redesigning their packaging to be 100% recyclable by 2025. In addition to that, while the Malaysian government has a roadmap to make sure that there is recycled content, if I recall, 15% by 2030, our members have their own targets as well to include recycled content within their products. So a lot of our members, such as Coca-Cola, Nestle, and the local brand Spritzer, they have already included recycled content within their packaging. So Coca-Cola Malaysia has recently introduced their 100% recycled PET bottles within the Malaysian market. And Spritzer was among the first brand owners to introduce recycled content within their packaging as well, I think within the past 2 years. In additionally to that, our member Nestle has also incorporated recycled content into both their ready-to-drink packaging as well as their secondary packaging when it comes to transportation of their products. So in addition to that, in terms of their packaging and their products and recycled content, our members also individually look into responsible collection. So our brand member Nestle Malaysia, they've engaged in curbside collection for the recyclables across Malaysia. So what they do is they go from door to door, house to house to encourage separation at source and collection of recyclables through dry mix recyclables on a door to door basis on I think it's on a Thursday or depending on the location on a set day. So they do direct to consumer, direct to households collection, while our members Coca-Cola and Etika. Etika is the brand holder for products such as Pepsi and Suntory. They are involved in collection of PET bottles through recyclable collectors, whether it's directly through collectors, aggregators, or through collection points in commercial areas or in shopping malls or during collection campaigns. Apart from responsible collection, our members also individually look into responsible disposal and recycling. So our brand member Tetra Pak and Nestle have collaborated in their Careton project that looked into the collection of used beverage cartons or UBC for conversion into poly-L roofing boards. They've been doing that over the past 10 years, if I recall. And our other member, SIG Combi Block, is currently engaged with, is building up partnerships within Malaysia to also improve the recyclability of their own used beverage cartons as well. So apart from that, our members also look into how they can rethink packaging, rethink how they design those products. So our members such as Unilever are looking into how they can rethink and redesign their products to be more sustainable and to be more recyclable in the long run. And our local brand FNN, Fraser Neve, are also looking into rethinking packaging, either through reducing the usage of virgin resin, using alternative materials, or making it easy to recycle when it comes to consumers and separation of source. So while these initiatives are well and good individually across the board, they are still a drop in the ocean. So, which is why through Maria, we want to create a bigger impact. So the only way we can do this is we do it collectively to make sure that we can shift from an individual basis to a more a nationwide, a more countrywide basis to be more sustainable and to actually create long-lasting change. So through Maria, as a coalition, we provide collection support at different parts of the value chain, whether it's through the collection, sorting, or recycling of those materials. And we want to cover all post-consumer packaging materials. However, while we can have the best collection system, the best sorting system, and the best recycling technology in the market, if we don't have good communication, education, and public awareness as the foundation of our projects, we cannot get the feedstock, we cannot get the participation from households, from consumers to make sure that we can collect and recover our target for collections at any given year, whether it's at the voluntary stage right now or at the mandatory stage when the time comes. In addition to that, our plans at Maria to increase the recycling rate and collection also has to work with the current legislative environment in Malaysia, which is quite fragmented, to say the least. So on the right of the slide, you can see a small patchwork of colors. So there's a distinction on the Peninsula Malaysia side and Sabah and Sarawak, and on the East Malaysia side, as well as within the Peninsula Malaysia side, there is a distinction between how the states manage their own separation of source and centralized collection for solid waste management. So the act I mentioned earlier on, the Solid Waste Management and Public Cleansing Act, Act 672, this act, which has the provision for EPR or EPR-like provisions, they can collect, they have a mandate and they can collect recyclables through the federal system. So the federal government can mandate and can enforce the collection of recyclables, especially through separation at source regulations. The separation at source regulations are currently in force, They are enforcing it to varying degrees across the Act 672 states with limited success. And we are trying to work with the federal government in trying to make sure that separation at source for collection of recyclables is effective. Whereas for non-Act 672 states, the acts which are in the light blue colors, they don't have provisions for separation of source or even a centralized collection. Some of states do, some states don't. So it can be a bit of a patchwork. So even working with them, we have to come up with tailored approaches on how we approach our project and how we approach collection within those jurisdictions and municipalities. Likewise, in Sabah and Sarawak, they have their own constitutional right to manage their own waste management separate from the federal system and separate from Peninsular Malaysia. So you can see that just sorting out the legal framework will be quite a challenge at Maria, and that is something that we are endeavoring to do as much as we can to make sure that there is a good, solid collection system in place. So, looking into
Thanks,
what
Jason,
yes.
we're quite a bit past your time. I'm so
sorry.
sorry. I just want to respect everyone's time.
Right.
Very,
Okay, so
very interesting. But
okay.
maybe you can answer some questions in the chat and we'll see if there's more time. I'm so
Sure.
sorry.
No problems. Okay, all right. But anyway, this is just a
Okay.
quick intervention. Okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. It's
Okay,
really
no problems.
interesting.
All right.
Next up, we have Ariana Susanti from the Indonesian Packaging Federation. Ariana, do you need help sharing your screen?
Okay, thank you, Rachel. I will share my screen now, yeah. Okay, thank you. My name is Ariana from Indonesian Packaging Federation, Business Development Director, and I will share about APR challenge and opportunity in Indonesia. Indonesian Packaging is a member of ASEAN Packaging Federation and also a member of World Packaging Organization, who has about more than 50 members in the world. So regularly we have twice meeting a year, and now today we have meeting actually in Bangkok for Global Packaging Sustainable Forum. Yeah, and part of IPF board will also attended there. So, okay, talking about PCR plastic in Asia Pacific region, including ASEAN countries, it represents second largest recycling the plastic packaging market around the world. Actually, international brand owner focus and pushing to implement PCR content packaging. They continue to focus on packaging innovative design and differentiation from competitor, because PCR demand rising due to the publicity, sustainability awareness, and government approach with support. Okay, so talking about about plastic virus application. Here you can see that 40% of plastic is used for packaging, as the rest is being used for automotive, building construction, airplane, cars, etc. So, and the Indonesia waste composition based on waste type is plastic remaining 18.39%, and food waste is 41.76%. So, a life without packaging, is it possible? Or can you imagine it? Imagine if a world without plastic, the impact will be no flight, no cell phone, etc. That's just remaining, yeah. So packaging actually is necessary, yeah, but for instance, for pharmaceutical, etc., yeah, packaging help to prevent food waste, etc. But we need to responsible for that, yeah. Okay, so waste management law in Indonesia, yeah. I think I can, this already Pak Rocky mentioned earlier, yeah, about the waste management law in Indonesia, about that's the focus on 30% waste reduction in the target is in 2029, yeah. And the roadmap of waste reduction by producer, we have 3 key strategies, which are reduction, recycling, and reusing. So Indonesia EPR roadmap based on regulation, which all stakeholders to be involved, which are producer, government, and public society, with philosophy that to reduce waste of packaging by doing reduce, reuse, and recycle, and to change public behavior, not littering, and being able to separate dry and wet waste from home. Yeah, I think this more important. And this is an overview of post-consumer recycling PCR in Indonesia. As you may know that 85% collected of PCR depend on informal sector, while only 15% collected by formal sector. And yeah, about sustainability packaging design, here producers should be able to meet the circular economy principle used by producer as a reference in designing their packaging so that it adequate to be managed post-consumer consumption of their product. So that producers should start to redesigning their packaging to meet this criteria. Yeah, actually packaging isn't part of the problem, isn't part of the solution. We follow, there are 10 principles as a role model for a producer for sustainable packaging design, which are designed for recovery, provide consumer information on sustainability, optimize material efficiency, design to reduce product waste and eliminate hazardous material, use recycled material, use of renewable material, design for transport efficiency, and design for accessibility. And plastic recycle industry challenge in Indonesia about reprocessing packaging to packaging. There are recycle lack of high-tech recycling machine, which is mostly imported to produce recycled product that can be made into packaging again. And only a few multinational company have such machine, for example, airpad machine. It's very expensive actually. And then also the problem is high technical skill are required for staff and operator. And we still miss it. And for collection and segregation, lack of investment in collecting point, lack of integration between solid waste management and recycling, and high dependence on informal sector. Yeah. And for action and collaboration, there are also several organizations involved, initiated by producer, such as IPRO, which is Indonesian Packaging Recovery Organization, and ADUPI, Indonesian Plastic Recycle Association, and also IPR, Indonesia Plastic Recycles, and some NGOs such as Waste for Change, and many millennials are making online application to pick up waste, such as SMES, Plastic Pay, Mall Sampah, Angkut, Mulung, Octopus, etc. Also, big local company and multinational company collaborate together to set up recycling manufacturer such as Danone Aqua and Veolia, also Dynapack Asia with Coca-Cola Indonesia, and also Namasindo and many others. So I think collaborate, innovate, and accelerate is the key to EPR and in implementation of a circular economy in Indonesia. Thank you, Rachel. I think I will finish my slide.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That was really, really interesting, really informative.
Thank you.
All right. We have a last but not least, thanks to everyone who is staying to hear everybody speak. Ms. Mayuri Arunwarananan, I'm sorry if I said that wrong, who is the project manager for the Packaging Recovery Organization, or PRO, in Thailand. Mayuri, are you here?
Yep. Hi.
All right. Take it
I'm
away.
gonna scan my screen then. So my name is Mayuri. I am the CEO of the company called GEPP Saat, or Collect and Clean in Thai. So thanks for having me. I'm going to be taking you guys away with the things that we do in Thailand. We're actually a service provider in terms of waste management solutions. We have data platform and services that help our clients achieve their waste management ambitions. And one of the work that we do here is to conduct the pilot projects under the voluntary EPR landscape that we're operating in Thailand. Can you guys see my screen properly?
Yes.
Yeah. So in the photo, you will see the Pro Thailand Network and one of the main coalitions among the other four in Thailand that take a lead on piloting what it could look like, replicating some of the models that we learned elsewhere, either within this region and somewhere else, such as Europe also. We work very closely with Dr. Burnett, who shared some of the EPR updates earlier in this session. In the other side, we also serve our clients who are not in the PRO Thailand network, who are trying to figure out what they want to do or what they can do in this vacuum voluntary period that we're waiting for certain movements in the EPR being mandated. So we help both sides, one being in the institution like PRO Thailand, and one who are more independent and want to do something on their own. So the topic that I brought today would be, what kind of work that we do and what are the lessons learned that I want to share with you guys from the design perspective of the EPR implementation program, from the person who does this work on the ground, and from the producer perspective of what you can actually consider doing in this period and when the EPR becomes mandatory. So the work that we do is a package of readiness check for all of the collectors and recyclers who are in the program. We do the material audit to make sure that there is minimum or almost no post-industrial waste that are mixed into the program. We want to make sure that the materials that we support are pretty much the post-consumption recyclable material. We do the transactional audit through our system to ensure the accuracy and integrity of the whole incentive program, as well as the proper arrangements from one stakeholder to another stakeholder in the value chain. Because we run this on our software, so we have to do performance monitoring, and we can do that through the data analytics that we help our clients to come up with the new strategies on a yearly basis and see, the density of where the packaging is. So this is what we do. We use tech and human being. We work on facts, and because we are not the PRO organization today, so we come in as the independent third eye view on, how to ensure that PRO organizations can run this with utmost integrity in all of the transactions that they have to deal with, managing the data that they have to deal with, and the stakeholders that they have to deal with. So a lot of stuff that we do is automate the pro operations with the system and some of the human. So with all of the work that we do, there are 4 key considerations that I think producers, initiatives have to think about. One is the scale of the impact that you want to achieve today in relation to the operating situation you're in. So we have heard from our fellow colleagues today across the region where you are in terms of the maturity of your EPR legislation. We are also in the same pace, but that also dictates on how much you can do and how much you want to do. So there are two different things here. One wants to do so much and one can do the minimum just to learn. So that factors in terms of the design of the program. The second thing that we learned when serving our clients in this space is that the problems with your material becomes one of the main characteristics you have to figure out. Is it collectible? Is it being collected today? Is it recyclable in Thailand, or can it be recycled elsewhere? These are the technical and operational parameters that we have to factor in when we design the program for the EPR and the voluntary period, like what we're currently doing. The resource availability in the company and in the country also becomes a factor, especially in the voluntary program, and it will play out in a much larger scale, in my opinion, when it becomes mandated, because the choice of operation or the mode of collection becomes something that one has to consider. How much you want to spend, how much can you spend, how many people are you going to put on the task to do this, and that factor in, ultimately your choice of collection. And of course, the investment and the social return from the program, such as in the voluntary period. So now, one of the things that I often talk all the time would be the packaging material maturity. Knowing the material in the value chain, where they stand in terms of collectivity and recyclability. In Thailand, we have informal sectors and a lot of junk shops and aggregators, and that is a great infrastructure to work with. So a lot of the materials are pretty much collected, especially the focused materials that are under the draft today under the EPR. But we also see some of the materials on the bottom left here that are still struggling to break through and increase the collection rate for the country. And we're going to see that come into play to the right-hand side when it comes to glass and tin cans, which have their own problems. So when factoring all of these technical/operational parameters in the design of your implementation program, you will see that the solutions to increase collection of each material become very customized and specific to each material, even though you're talking to just a handful of stakeholders that deal with almost all of these packaging materials, but each material merits its own solution in terms of pricing, in terms of logistics arrangement, in terms of any other support that the program under the EPR legislation framework needs to do more or less, depending on this position that each material is in. So as a producer, so what can you do? We have served a wide range of producers here, and this is our take on it. So there are three modes of collection, I would say, to do. I think Professor Panet mentioned about the IPR or doing it yourself, and I think that could be one of the solutions, or do through Pro, right? But under the IPR, I believe that there are certain things that we have seen in play in the industry. One would be the self-take back. So usually this thing works pretty much so well when you are in voluntary period, because you want to learn how this works, what will be the most cost-effective and collection-effective dimensions from your program. So then you move towards working with someone else now, working with your partners in the product value chain, taking back through your own logistics, for example, and then the most extreme would be 100% external and pay for pro service. Now, each option comes with its perks. So for example, the self-take bag the flexibility is obviously really high because the design and the controls are within yourself. Whereas when you are doing something with the group, such as Pro, which is pretty much your outsourced service provider, the flexibility could be low in the mandatory space. But if you are in a place like Thailand network or under the voluntary period like we are now, that flexibility is still there because everyone is here to learn and try to draw some of the key points to shape up what would make sense for EPR in your own countries. Then the cost efficiency becomes another factor. Self-take-back programs usually are the highest in terms of cost because you don't have anyone to share your fixed costs with. And when compared in terms of baht per ton or whatever currency you're operating in per ton, cost per ton would be inefficient, I would say, whereas obviously you can gain that through working in a group or using the critical mass kind of approach with Pro, so you can gain efficiency in there as well. The effort required from yourself to run these projects obviously will be high if you're doing it by yourself. Inevitably, that's the fact. But if you are working with your partners, that becomes a workload share, and maybe you will learn something through your own product value chain also. I have seen this play out really well for one of the major FMCG companies in our country who works really well with their product value chains from upstream until the downstream, and they can collect by themselves. The effort is pretty much higher than the self-take-back, but the cost efficiency and the net yield is quite interesting and attractive enough for them to learn. One consideration to do this would be your scale. So for example, if you're not your footprint is not so big, like in the 1,000 tons of packaging footprint, then you might want to consider doing one of the extremes, such as self-take-back or the PRO service to get it over with, or you can do both, where self-take-back can give you that CSR meaningful project for your team members and your staff, and for your own brand recognition, and use PRO as one of the means to help you recover your footprint. You can do both. I think the effort here.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You're a couple minutes past the 10-minute mark.
Oh,
so
sorry.
Maybe take a minute or two to wrap up. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. I understand I'm the last one. So yeah, I think one of the things to consider would be all of those that I mentioned, the effort and the suitability of the packaging. I think here the key points is that there are 4 parameters that you need to look at: the financial flow, the data flow, material flow, and the transition plan from voluntary to the mandatory, which is very important. And I think this is the last one for me would be, I will still believe that you should go with the group, and that we have to separate EPR from CSR. Like, most companies are still confused about how to combine those two. And to make this work, EPR and circular economy law have to go together. Otherwise, it will become very costly for everyone, and the person who has to bear that impact would be the end consumers who have to buy those products. So that would be from myself. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really interesting to see what it's like to implement all the factors and considerations. I'll turn it over to Jihan or Dr. Arisman to kind of close this out. Thank you so much for these speakers who are really doing the work and making it happen.
Thank you, Rachel. I would like to thank to all the moderators and speakers who have taken the time to share their insight and perspective on this event. It was truly valuable for everyone. And I also a big thank you to you all around the world for tuning in to follow this event on various channels. Look forward to new collaboration with us. And thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.